The blues. It is a genre with a very deep history, originating from African Americans in the 1860s. Fast forward to today, jazz musicians all over the world are still playing the blues every day. It's a 12-bar chord progression that's used with hundreds of different melodies and harmonic variations. There are so many beautiful ways that people solo over a blues, so today we're going to talk about 5 soloing techniques that we can use within our own jazz improvisation over a blues. All the techniques that we'll discuss today come from our resource here at Jazz Lesson Videos, 27 Blues Etudes, written by Chad LB. There's a variety of useful concepts utilized within these etudes, such as bebop techniques, melodic cells, pentatonic shifting, straight-ahead shred, different blues styles, even minor blues, and more. The book comes with recordings of all 27 of these etudes being played by Chad LB. So if you're interested in downloading the full resource, you can find the link in the description below and use code BLUES5 for $5 off. Alright, so let's get into the first soloing technique of today that we can use over a blues solo, and that is Motivic Development. This is when you take a short musical idea called a motif and gradually expand upon it using techniques like repetition and variation. On page 7 of the resource, Chad LB demonstrates a wonderful example of Motivic Development. First, let's play it, then we'll break it down. Now let's study the motifs and observe how they develop. This first set of notes here before the first rest is the first motif. After this brief pause, we play the exact same notes up until this B flat. Before we went down to the 6th, E, and then we go up to the flat 3rd, a blue note, B flat. And then we resolve it onto a G, which before we resolved it into a 2-note figure, D and G down an octave. So already our motif has developed using repetition and then a slight variation. This sets up a nice segue into a new melodic figure, which starts on a beat 4 pickup into measure 5 here. Now there's a new mini motif going on here. Starting on this B flat, it walks its way down to the D. And then on the and of 4, we do this exact same set of notes again. But this time, we introduce some variation by creating a chromatic enclosure around the D. We use this as a segue and transition into another motif, which is this 3-note figure here, a chromatic approach into the 3rd and then the 5th. Playing this back-to-back creates this neat syncopation, and this whole phrase is a figure inspired by Lester Young. And then we pivot into yet another motif. This is a 3-beat motif starting on this D7. Using the blues scale, we have this neat rhythmic figure, and we repeat it again on beat 4, creating yet more neat syncopation. On beat 3 of C7, Chad hints that he's going to do this motif again, but cleverly it switches into a different scale to end this phrase. The last measure of this chorus serves as a big melodic pickup into the first measure of the next chorus. From here, we have a very obvious motif. And not only that, Chad sets up a call and response with himself. In measure 5 of this chorus, this motif takes on a whole nother rhythm. And finally, in G7, we branch into new melodic material, ending off with material inspired from the first chorus's motifs. So that's a great example of motivic development. Great, so the second soloing technique today for jazz blues is to utilize more blue notes. Blue notes are wrong notes that just feel right. The most essential ones are the flat 7, flat 3rd, and flat 5th. There are 2 popular blues scales that utilize these. First, the major blues scale. This is just a major pentatonic scale with an added flat 3rd. Then the minor blues scale. This is a minor pentatonic scale with an added flat 5th. Now on page 1 of 27 Blues Etudes, Chad uses an 8-note blues scale that he calls the ultra blues scale. this is a minor blues scale with an added major third, making the flat third sound like a chromatic approach note into the major third. And we also add a major seventh, acting as a passing tone between the flat 7 and the root, just like a dominant bebop scale. Let's listen to how Chad LB utilizes this scale by playing the etude found on page 1 of the resource. Cool, so this is part of a longer etude, but I wanted to highlight these measures. This entire etude uses the B-flat ultra blues scale. What's cool about it is that you can completely ignore the changes, and this ultra blues scale is just simply going to work. So you can play changes, or you can just play the ultra blues scale, or do a mix of both. And you're gonna get some nice variety. This is a really nice soloing technique over the blues. Pretty neat. So the third tip is to really utilize triplets. Triplets, especially in a blues, are your best friend as they are the foundation of a swing feel. Let's play an etude from page 5 of the resource that utilizes triplets, and then we'll break down what's going on. So check it out, triplets galore. First measure, we got a triplet and a nice motif. Second measure, we got the same triplet and the same motif with a slight variation. Third measure, we got another triplet going down the blues scale. And then we stray away from a bit because we don't want to spam these triplets. In measure 6, we get a 16th note triplet. And then from the pickup into measure 9, triplets carry out the rest of this chorus. You can see them everywhere and they all sound so nice, especially when paired with the blues scale. Cool. So the next soloing technique that will add some sophistication to your jazz blues solos is melodic chromaticism. These are things like chromatic approach notes, enclosures, and chord substitutions. Let's play an etude from page 12 of the resource that brilliantly demonstrates melodic chromaticism, and then we'll break it all down. Nice, so what's going on here? We start off with the bluesy triplet figure on this pickup measure here. And on the first official measure, this F7, we have this nice chromatic bluesy figure. We play the sharp fourth, go down to the root. The natural fourth, go down to the root. Then the third. So that upper voice is chromatically approaching that major third here. In the next measure, we got a nice chromatic enclosure around this fourth. And when we return to the F7 here, we go down the F dominant bebop scale with a chromatic passing tone between the root and the flat 7. And now for this quick 2-5, we're really implying the sound of 5 altered. And how it's done here is by going up a half step from the root of F7 to the F sharp and thinking F sharp minor. When we go down, we voice lead to the F and simply play an F dominant bebop figure that chromatically approaches the flat 7th and returns to the F. After this resolution, we've got a flurry of 16th notes. This is chock full of chromatic enclosures and chromatic passing tones. Finally, we resolve back to 8th notes on the G minor 7 chord, the 2 chord, and yet still have chromatic passing tones, such as the C, the 11, chromatically walking down to the flat 3rd, the B flat. Then we dip down and jump up to the 9th and chromatically walk our way down to the root, chromatically walk our way down to a sort of C7 sus sound here, embellishing this 4th, then going down to the 2-7-2. Then we anticipate the 1 chord by playing an early F7 figure here on beats 3 and 7 of C7. Then we end off this chorus by playing the exact same figure as what was at the very beginning of this etude. Pretty cool. Awesome. So the fifth and final tip of today's video is to substitute changes from a bird blues into your blues. Bird blues changes is the chord progression to Charlie Parker's composition Blues for Alice. You can take any of these sections and apply them in the same spots over an ordinary jazz blues progression. Measures 2 through 4's chords are really a long approach into the 4 chord in measure 5. And measures 6 through 8 are a long approach to the 2 chord in measure 9. Let's hear a bird blues etude from the resource found on page 21. First, we'll play over the changes of Blues for Alice, and then we'll play the exact same recording over the changes of a normal blues. Hopefully, you'll hear that it still works and it sounds a little spicy. Well, alrighty everyone, that concludes today's video. I hope this video helped, and again, if you're interested in downloading 27 blues etudes, don't forget that you can use the code BLUES5 for $5 off. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, please feel free to leave a like and comment, subscribe below, as it really helps this channel grow. Till next time everyone.